Hello. In this video, we're going to solve this equation. What I noticed right away is that on the right-hand side, I have a quadratic expression. Specifically, in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And on the left-hand side, I have 0. So since I have 0 on the left-hand side, and I have a quadratic expression on the right-hand side of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, which is standard form, that means I can apply some techniques that I've learned to solve for x. So the first technique which I always look for is always check if I can factor. And in this case, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me -1, but add to give me 3. And what we find is factoring won't work. So what I could do then is I could complete the square. Now a good thing to note is that I can always complete the square. And once I've changed this form from standard form to vertex form, I can then isolate for x using some of our more basic algebra. But what I don't like about this is completing the square is ugly. So this is going to be ugly and it's going to take a while. So what I have at my disposal is what's called the quadratic formula. And if we remember, the quadratic formula comes from completing the square and solving in general case. And what that means is that if I took ax squared plus bx plus c and I applied the process of completing the square there and then solve for x, I would come up with a formula, and that is the quadratic formula. So to solve this, I'm going to apply the quadratic formula. And the first thing I do is I write out the a, the b, and the c value. So in this case, I see a is 1, and that is, we don't write it, but there's a 1 coefficient there. The b is 3, which is right here, and the c is -1. Make sure you get that minus sign. Now, one thing I always do is I always write it out, the formula, -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and over 2a. The other thing I do is I say it out loud. Writing it down and saying it out loud are methods that will help you memorize this. I can't stress this enough. You need to memorize this. I will not give this to you. This is one of those formulas that is so important to have in your arsenal. You just have to memorize it. And like I told many of your story in third year university, I forgot it during an exam, and luckily I remembered it partway through. Okay, so let's do this. So all I do now is I take these a, b, and c terms, and I substitute them in. So if b is 3, I get -3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 3 squared minus 4, extend that, times a, which is 1, times c, which is -1, all over 2a. And that's equal to -3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared is 9 plus -4 times 1 times -1 is +4 over, oh, pardon me, on my last step, notice that I forgot to add an a value of 1 there, over 2, which is equal to -3 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. And those are your two answers. Now, if in the case I was actually trying to graph this, I'd want to take this and put this into my calculator and get the approximate values. So one way to show that is what we do, and we're just going to come up here to continue our work, is we say x1, and that's a sub 1, and then we say that's going to be -3 plus the square root of 13 over 2, and x sub 2 is going to be negative 3 minus the square root of 13 over 2. And then we get the approximate, and if I take that, negative 3 plus 13, root 13 over 2 is approximately 0.30278, and negative 3 minus root 13 over 2 is approximately, we can use the other approximate sign if we want, negative 3.3028. And I'm done. And I've now solved that using the quadratic formula. A couple things I want to highlight here. One, it is called the quadratic formula, not the quadratic equation. Students will often call this the quadratic equation. That is incorrect. It is a formula. Two, when you are writing this out, make sure that this square root sign extends over everything. Also make sure that the vinculum, or the division line, extends over everything. Often students will draw those a little shorter than expected, and as a result they're going to get the math incorrect. Finally, make sure you can substitute this directly into your calculator and get an answer. And I really encourage you to, after this video, to actually try and make sure it works for you. Students will make mistakes in terms of typing in their calculator, and as a result get incorrect answers. The quadratic formula is a wonderful tool. I hope you enjoy using it. Good luck.